We are back. It's me, Jesse Rowe, with Inside Fighting. This is Fight Season. We are joined by one of my favorite guests, a recurring guest. It is Torrez the Punisher Finney, coming off of his win over Robert Valentin at UFC Vegas 105. Torrez, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, happy to be here. Obviously, got me a little shiner.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But look, I'll take a shiner with a W any day. So
absolutely. And I hate to start our interview off with a joke here, but I just want to say, 4 significant strikes in your first UFC win. Torrez, you're already breaking records. Come on, one UFC fight, you're already breaking records, man.
Look, to me, it's funny because it's like I am on the end of a controversial, something after every time I step into the octagon. So it's like, it is what it is. Embrace it. Talking with my granddad. Look, people wish to be in these type of pressure situations, and I'm just blessed to be in a bunch of them. But I love it. I really do. And yeah, to have the least amount of significant strikes again, a record we don't want, but it's a record we got because at least it comes with a win, and that's one of those things that I value the most is finally get a W. But obviously, yeah, the performance is a lot more that I wanted to do. Obviously, not taking nothing away from Robert Valentin because he did some really good things as well in the fight, but there's a lot of mistakes I made.
Yeah, but it's just, obviously I want to get to, all of the, with the commentary and things like that. But what was your just overall feeling about how you felt in there, your performance in general, and just, how you're feeling after your first UFC fight?
Funny enough, dude, that's the best week I had, going into a fight. It really was. I felt great the whole week. My body felt amazing. The weight cut, the best weight cut I ever had. So it was nothing outside going in was necessarily into effect. But what's crazy is I've had times where I've had a worse fight week and I had the best fight of my life. So sometimes it just depends on obviously the fight day. And fight day I felt great, but again, taking nothing from Valentin, I think Valentin showed some things that I feel like he was better than from me watching film and approaching to. He definitely worked on a lot of areas. Granted, look, when you got somebody that's preparing for you for 8 straight weeks, obviously They're going to be prepared for what you're able to do. So, I just have to, expand more and do things differently. But I messed up in some of the part of my game plan. I didn't do some of the things that I was initially supposed to do going into that. Oh, not going to during the fight.
Right.
And it's probably because of feel. I felt some things that I didn't feel as confident to do against him than I originally thought from watching film. So, but again, like I said, it's the fight game. It's the sport of it. It's the martial art of it. You learn, you grow from it. And again, no better way to learn than to grow from a W. So, being 11-0, look, I've been around fighting again for 4.5 years. People wish to win 11 straight fights. It's hard. I'm a living testament. It's hard to win 11 straight MMA fights. So we're definitely continuing to try to ride this trail.
What in particular was it that you basically what it sounds like you're saying is you had to change your game plan a little bit in there. What is it that you think that you didn't feel as confident in? Was it the striking? Was it your ground and pound? What was it in particular?
Yeah, I'm going to say, Valentin had a little bit better hips and showed a little bit more urgency on the ground than he's shown in his other fights. I didn't, from just watching it, I just never thought he had what I felt in there going in. But again, there were opportunities for me to open up that would have probably negated some of that. I didn't because I probably didn't feel as confident because of how his hips were moving. But that's just a part of growing in a fight. You have to adjust. And nobody ever goes into a fight wanting to only land 4 significant strikes. Let's be honest. So that's just not real. But, it happened to turn out that way, obviously. But no, that was never the case. I just didn't get to my control dominance. I missed my hooks a few times. It's I just give a lot more credit to Valentin. Valentin's a good fighter. Obviously made it to the Ultimate Fighter finale. Got 2 first-round finishes on the show. So, look, the man did what he had to do to get the W. And I was just able to do enough to outweigh that.
Yeah, so let's get into it now because obviously I know you've seen it. You know, there's no there's no avoiding it. There was some backlash, some commentary from fans. Even Michael Bisping on the broadcast, you know, he made a comment saying, you know, this is the Ultimate Fighting Championship. This isn't the hold them up against the cage championship. It was something like
He
that. I
did.
forget the exact quote. What's your reaction to the backlash, or you know, quote unquote backlash, or the criticism that you've received since Saturday night?
Well, one, I don't pay attention to too much of it. More of anything, I laugh at it. But two, uh, beat me. That's the way I look at it. You have to beat me. Granted, nobody ever goes into a fight wanting to stale. Nobody ever goes into a fight wanting things to happen out in the way that it happens. But
Right.
you have to find a way to go out there and beat me. And I'm going to go out there every single time and do everything I need to do that I need to do to get the W, that I need to do to get the win. And guys just, everybody talk and talk. And no, nobody wanted to push him against the fence. I'm not pushing him against the fence to hold him there. I'm intentionally trying to take him down. Like, let's be real here. But, you know, everybody has their point of view. Everybody has their way that they look at fighting. Um, for me, this is one of the things that I really love to do. And one of the things that I love to do, been growing up my entire life, is winning. Winning is the main thing that matters to me. So anything else that comes along with that, they can keep all that. And I love the fans. Look, I've had just as much fan support, obviously, than I had fan. Now I've seen more of the fan backlash. Don't get me wrong. And it's funny to me. Look, it's very like a blessing, much of a blessing, to be in a situation to where people want to be here and they hate you. Like, I love that. Like, hey, I got a lot of people that hate me. They don't even know me. That's fine. That's a part of the pressure. I have no problem with that. People hated the best. People hate Islam Makhachev. He's the pound-for-pound best. People hate John Jones. He's the GOAT. People hated all these greats. I'm just a part of that, and I just keep winning, How many people are undefeated and get this type of backlash? It's like, I'll take it, Hey, It is what it is. To be in these type of pressure situations, you have to be molded for it, and you have to be strong. So I'm not worried about it in the slightest, because I know my next performance is going to be 10,000 times better than this.
Love that. And I agree with you. I do have to ask you one thing, and Torrez, you're my guy, so I ask you with all due respect. But there's a streamer out there named MMA Guru. I'm sure you're aware of who he is, right?
Yes, I know exactly who he is.
He had a pretty harsh comment. I'll read it. I'll read it to you. He says,
Read.
"Torrez Finney is actually he's actually the biggest bitch we've ever seen in the UFC. I've never seen anyone desperately try to avoid a fight for 15 straight minutes. More separations. He makes Marab look like prime Lawler." And then he says that the UFC should cut you. What is your response to this?
Well, for one, MMA Guru has never fought. I'm not gonna get here and call names, but I will say this: MMA Guru, for you to have those type of opinions, you have a platform. Congratulations, brother. But there's a lot more things that I think you need to acknowledge before you just go around and being mad at fighting. Because I've seen his comments on other things on the Dagestanis on their styles. So it's more of him hating the style rather than have him actually hating the fighter. But I mean, if he hates me, so be it. I mean, look, let him talk. Let him talk, because you can hate me, but you can't beat me. And if you want to just sit here and just trash talk me, so be it. But I'm gonna keep winning. I have no other words for MMA Guru. He can say whatever he wants to say.
Does that sort of thing motivate you, or is it something that you turn a blind eye to? Like, how do you process it when you, like, in terms of like channeling it forward and to the next fight?
Well, I always say for myself, my favorite fight is the next fight. Because I want to always be the best. And to be the best, you have to continue to uplift yourself. You have to continue to elevate your game. I'm elevating my game. And, Saturday wasn't the best way for me to showcase what I've gotten better at. It just wasn't. And again, styles make fights, man. Like, there was some times, like, I don't know if anybody was paying attention, times he grabbed the cage. A few times, like, if anybody know anything about grappling, crotch lock. A crotch lock is a stalemate position. It's just not going to advance anything. In wrestling, when people do it, they call it a stalling position. Right. It is what it is. So, like, it's a lot of different things that go on both sides. But I'm never like mad at anything what anybody says. But yes, that motivates me because I want to be the best. You know, I want to be the best that I possibly can be. So I'm not going to allow what people say to be the thing that motivates me. I've said this on here multiple times. I've said this in multiple interviews. You know, I'm not in the business of proving people wrong. I'm in the business of proving myself right. And I proved myself right on Saturday. I was told I'll get decimated. I won my first UFC fight. I want to know in the UFC. So, I mean, look, I get told I'm supposed to have been lost. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. And yet I'm 11-0 in MMA with a 1-0 record in the UFC, in the highest, in the pinnacle promotion of MMA. So obviously I must be doing something right. Now, yes, to continue this, I have to get better. But I feel like I'm on the right track. We just keep growing.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions because obviously that was like a famous quote from a previous Contender Series appearance, obviously. So do you feel like because Dana White obviously said that you would get quote unquote decimated, do you feel like you proved him wrong, or do you feel like this is more just you proving to yourself that you belong?
This is more proving to myself that I belong, but to a lot of people, it's still going to have those questions. They're going to have those answers. They're like, oh, man, this guy needs to do this. Oh, as I saw a few comments, oh, he wasn't ready. That's why he needed 3 Contender Series fights. But, again, it's not like I lost any of those fights. I won all 3 of my Contender Series fights. I won my UFC debut. I mean, obviously, like, I must know what I'm doing in some sort of fashion.
Yeah.
Now, yes, talent would get better. Fights would get harder. How will I, go out there and handle business? And I feel like I go out there and do the same thing I've been continuing to do. Find a way to get the W. Find a way to get the win.
Absolutely. Do you hold any grudge against Tony Weeks and his 30-27 scorecard for Valentin? Like upon rewatch of this fight, I'm guessing you've rewatched it at this point, unless you have you?
Okay. Yes, I have a few times. Yes.
What are your thoughts on Tony Weeks' 30-27 scorecard? He's a boxing judge, boxing referee, so he obviously values strikes to a higher degree. I was shocked. I'll just be full disclosure. I was shocked when I saw the 30-27 scorecard for Valentin. What were your thoughts on it?
Brother, look, let me tell you something. When I heard I already know it's a split decision when he started reading out judges' names.
Yeah.
When I heard 30-27 and he said Valentin, I was like, oh, I just sold this fight. I lost. Because it just threw me in the loop of, wow, the other judges must have had at least 29-28 Valentin. I would have been more acceptable if I heard a 29-28 Valentin.
Right.
Than a 30-27. Because I was sat there, I was like, how did I not win the first round? I mean, that was if out of any part of the fight, the first round was probably my best round of like looking in the fight.
Agreed.
There's no possible way you could tell me I didn't win the first round. Like, what are we looking at? Like, second round was a little closer, but I definitely still edged that out. Third round, yes, obviously he did a lot more damage. He landed a lot more strikes. Bro, I couldn't believe it. I'm not gonna ridicule anybody. In public, but I am gonna say that I was highly disappointed into the 30-27 scorecards.
Yeah, I mean, do you see it as maybe a because obviously that you won the fight, but do you see it maybe as like an opportunity to say, hey, maybe I can just use this as like maybe like a learning example, something to learn from, like about future fights, like, hey, even if I think I dominated, there are certain things that I'm going to have to do consistently in order to guarantee that, I don't get screwed over by a judge, or that I don't, because some judges, they view fights differently, right? Some judges view damage differently, some view control time differently, everybody's different, right? So do you see it as an opportunity to maybe, I don't know, like work on things to assure that doesn't happen, or how do you put it in those terms?
No, you said it right, Jesse. I mean, look, I have to do things better to not allow it to get to that situation. And that was my mistake. I allowed the fight to go to the decision. That's my mistake. The goal for me every time I step into the cage, I'm 11-0. I have 8 finishes. Every time I step into the cage, I want to get guys out of there. I didn't do that on Saturday, which allowed the door to open for judges to score fights like that. That's me. That's on me. I can't allow that door to open. I have to shut it defiantly by getting a finish. That was on me, and that's what I'm going to continue to learn from. I can't allow fights to happen that way, because that was without question, without question, that was definitely a shocking scorecard, and that definitely allowed the door to open for me, to obviously give judges those type of opportunities to score fights like that. So I can't allow that to happen anymore.
Yeah, and especially with all the noise around the fight, it might be something that judges are looking for. They might be looking at your fights differently in the future, right? So you're going to have
That's true.
to. That's something that I know that's something that a lot of fighters have had to deal with. So not that
That's
it's not
very
saying
true.
it's fair or right or wrong. I'm just saying it's true. Um, there was one critique, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, because one thing that I saw of people saying is, because you do have a lot of people who really support you, and that a lot of fans really do are following your story closely, but they do feel like that a cut to welterweight is something that they say that they think that you should do. What are your thoughts on people saying that you're not tall enough or big enough for middleweight?
Well, one, we've already done the testing for this. I went to the UFCPI. They tested my body, tested me outside of camp. And I was 221 pounds when I was outside of camp, when I was doing some of this testing. And my body fat percentage was at 13%. Meaning, they said for me to cut to 170, I would literally have to not even look at a weight for probably an entire year. Which is fine. But even then, they still don't know how I can still make that. It's just the way my body is built. I'm dense,
Right.
very muscular. You're like, yeah, I can cut muscle, but a part of what helps my game is my strength. And I feel like I'm the strongest middleweight that there is. Like, I really do. I feel like I'm stronger than all the middleweights. But again, like, height never been a problem for me because I'm just as long. My arm length is just as
Right.
long as most middleweights, so I'm not even worried about that in that regards. I just have to find how to be better at implementing my game towards the division, because it's very possible. Obviously, we saw it with Daniel Cormier. Yes, now some of this other stuff is old MMA, but look at Matt Serra. Now, granted, that was for 170, but he was short for 170. It's like
Yeah.
you have to find ways to implement. I know I'm not like, I remember Darren Wynn. Darren Wynn was short, but Darren Wynn had short arms as well. Like, I have longer arms. I can utilize this. And plus, I feel like I'm a lot more explosive than a lot of these guys. So I have to just continue to use that stuff, how to implement it in for my game plan. But no, I definitely don't see a cut in the future. No, I'm staying at 185. The cut is already hard for me to get there in the first place.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's like I feel really good there. I feel really strong. I'm confident at 185.
So what's next for you then? I mean, you mentioned that you felt like you kind of proved yourself to the notion that that Dana White said that you might struggle in the UFC. Have you spoken to anybody at the UFC? Did you get any feedback after the fight, or any call, anything like that?
No, sir. No. I just, won the fight, did my interviews, left out, talked with my management team. And yeah, we were just still waiting, obviously, let my body heal up a little bit and see what's next.
So what are you hoping for next? What do you see as like the next steps for Torrez Finney?
Well, obviously I know it's 10 weeks away, but my home state, I would love to fight in Atlanta, Georgia. But obviously, if that's not possible, the goal would be to try my best to try to fight in Nashville, where, obviously I'm here in Tennessee where I train at. So Atlanta, Georgia, or Nashville, that's the goal. Obviously I want to be on either one of those cards. I know that's some time away. Obviously, like I said, let my body heal, let things get going. But yeah, I'm ready to jump back on any one of those cards and continue to keep proving myself right. Yeah, obviously one of the most desired performance for myself. But yeah, I definitely am ready, dude. I'm ready. I'm ready to fight, dude. I can't wait to get back in there. I really can't.
I love it. I can't wait to watch you again, man. All things considered, I'm happy for you, proud of you. Been following you since your first fight at Dana White's Contender Series. You're, we're in your corner, bro. So congrats on the win, and thank you for being cool and talking about all this. I appreciate it.
No problem, Jesse. Anytime, brother.
Yeah.